Hey guys, it's Denise from LoomHook.com, and on this video I'm going to show you how to make a yarn holder bag. I do recommend picking up the written pattern for this particular project. Let's begin. You're going to wrap all 24 pegs on your loom, and then you're going to knit one row using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. Okay, let's secure the yarn. Wrap all your pegs. You're knitting flat, so you're going to stop at that last peg and turn around. You're going to knit that one row using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch, so you half wrap your peg and bring that bottom loop over the top. Your cast on is done. Now we're going to knit 4 rows of the U-wrap knit stitch. I prefer to slip that first stitch, or in other words skip it, and then knit the next one. And again, we're going to use the U-wrap version of the knit stitch for these 4 rows. Once you finish the edge, you're going to start with the stitch pattern, and here's row 1. You're going to knit the whole row. Don't forget to remove the knot from the anchor peg. And then I want you to keep in mind that these first 2 and last 2 are the edges, and you're going to always skip the first and knit your second one, and then you're going to start that repeat stitch pattern right here. But in this case, which is your first row, you're just going to knit the whole row. For row 2, we're going to knit 2 and then the stitch pattern, which is E-wrap 1, knit 3 until the last 2, which at that point we'll knit those last 2 stitches. Remember to always slip that first stitch, then you knit the next one. This is your edge right here, and then your 4 stitch pattern. You E-wrap the first stitch, and then you're going to U-wrap the next 3. Note that the E-wrap is different from the U-wrap in that you are wrapping the peg completely. U-wrap, you half wrap. E-wrap, you wrap the whole peg. You should have noticed by now that all rows start and end with 2 knit stitches. Now the 4 peg stitch pattern you're going to repeat until you reach those last 2 stitches, and then you're going to do 2 knit stitch. Row 3 might be a bit of a challenge for some of you guys, so if you need to pause, go back a bit and watch it again. Don't feel bad. I'm going to try to walk you through each step. So we're going to knit 2 for the edge, and then knit 2 together, yarn over until the last 2 stitches, and then those last 2 stitches you're going to knit. Okay, so we're gonna slip that first stitch and then U-wrap knit the next stitch, and now we're gonna move on to the stitch pattern, and it's a knit 2 together, yarn over. And here is the knit 2. Okay, in order to do the knit 2 together right here, you have to first go to the yarn over and remove that loop, unravel your E-wrap, and place that loop where your knit 2 together is. So you have 2 loops. Those are your 2 together. place the loop over it, and I knit them off one at a time. You can do them two together if you want. I do them one at a time. Here's your yarn over right here. See, you just place the yarn over the peg, and then you start the stitch pattern again. You knit 2, 1, here's your second, knit, and then knit 2 together, yarn over. Remove the loop from the peg, unravel the E-wrap, place it where the knit 2 together goes, and then place your yarn there, and then you're gonna, well, I'm going to do them one at a time. There's the second one, and sometimes you have some technical difficulties, which I did right here, so I do apologize, but I do fix it. There we go. And then here's your yarn over, and then you're going to start the stitch pattern again, 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 and your 2 knits. Row 4 and 5 are just 2 rows of the U-wrap knit stitch. For row 6, we're going to knit 2 and then start the stitch pattern. Knit 2, E-wrap 1, knit 1 until the last 2 stitches, and then knit 2. So you're going to slip the first stitch and then knit the next one, and then we're going to do the 4 stitch pattern. Knit 2, E-wrap, knit. Repeat the pattern then 4 more times, and then at the end you're going to knit 2. For row 7, we're going to do the knit 2 edge and then the stitch pattern, which is a knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 until the last 2 stitches, when we're going to do knit 2. So we're going to skip the first knit and knit the second one, which is your edge, and then we're going to move on to the 4 stitch pattern. Knit 2 together right here, yarn over, knit 2. For the knit 2 together, you're going to remove the loop off the next peg, unwind that E-wrap, and place that loop on the peg with the knit 2 together and knit off those 2 loops. And then you're going to take your yarn and place it over that loop, and the next 2 pegs will be your knit 2. Let's see that again. Alright, keep in mind that you're looking at the last repeat of the stitch pattern. That's why it ends in 2 knits. For row 8, you just need to knit. Now you just need to repeat the 8-row stitch pattern 4 more times. That's going to be a total of 40 rows for the stitch pattern. After the 40 rows, you're going to do 5 rows of the U-wrap knit stitch. It's time for the cast off, and we're going to use the modified basic bind off. First, E-wrap the second peg right here and knit off. You're going to take that loop off of peg 2 and place it on peg 1, tighten your stitch and knit off. And now you're going to take the loop off of peg 1 and move it and place it on peg 2. That is your basic bind off. Now here we're going to modify it, and we're going to wrap both 1 and 2, and then you're going to knit off and take the loop off of peg 2, put it on peg 1, tighten, knit off, and move the loop from peg 1 to peg 2. And that was your modified, but now you're going to go back to your basic bind off, and so you're going to E-wrap peg 2, take it off of 2, put it on 1, tighten, knit off, and take the loop off of 1 and place it on 2, and you will continue with this basic bind off where you E-wrap 2 and knit off, move it to 1, knit off, and then take that loop and move it over to 2, and you're going to continue that until you get all the way to halfway through the loom. You'll notice that the bind off leaves a nice stitch at the top. It's not very stretchy, and it does curl a little if you don't modify it enough. But here at the midpoint we're going to modify again, and so we're going to wrap both 1 and 2 and knit off and take the loop off of well, normally we take it off of 2, but I did 1 here, so don't worry about it, no big deal. And we're going to knit off. So this is a little, I don't know, boo-boo, but I wouldn't sweat it too much. And to make up for that, I had to move it over this way. But let's show you the correct way again. So you wrap 2, take it off, put it on 1, knit off, move 1 to 2. That is your correct basic bind off. I'm going to show you the modified bind off one more time right before the end, in fact at the last 3 stitches. So here are the last 3 stitches, and we're going to modify again by wrapping both 1 and 2, and then you knit off, and you're going to take the loop off of peg 2, put it on 1, tighten, knit off, and take the loop off of 1, and you're going to put it on 2, and now we're down to the last 2 stitches. So you're going to go back to the basic and wrap peg 2 and knit off and bring the loop from 2 to 1 and knit off, and your bind off is complete. Now just cut your yarn and leave some, I don't know, some 12 inches or something, and then just pull it through, and there you have it. Take some time to stretch your stitches out and open up those little eyelets to let your yarn through. The next part is optional and you don't need to do it, but it looks nicer if you tighten up the loose loops from the cast on. Grab the working yarn you used to secure the yarn. Pull it out of that loop on the side of the project. It was part of your cast on. And then we're going to go to the other end, and I've already done some pulling. That's why it doesn't look very thick, because usually it'll look real loose like this one. And so you're going to pull on it to tighten up those loops, and you can see already how much better that looks. And there's a lot of excess yarn. Once you reach the end, you're going to take that working yarn and pull it through that last loop to make a knot and secure your work. Okay, one piece is done and you need to make another one, because there should be 2 of these pieces, and don't worry that they curl a little bit on the edges. Time to make what I call the connector, and for that we're going to wrap 15 pegs and do 1 row of the U-wrap knit stitch. Again, we secure our yarn by tying it to the anchor peg. You can do a slip knot if you want, and wrap your 15 pegs. You stop at peg 15 and we're going to turn around because we're knitting flat, and we're going to knit 1 row of the U-wrap knit stitch. When you're finished with that 1 row, you will be finished with your cast on and ready to move on. Next, you're going to knit 37 rows of the U-wrap knit stitch and 1 row of purl. Remember that you're knitting flat, slip the first stitch, and don't forget to remove the knot off the anchor peg after a few rows. For the purl row, you're going to skip the first stitch and then take your yarn, put it under the existing one, scoop it up to create a new loop. Take the old loop off, place the new one on, and tighten. Again, you place the yarn under, scoop it up to create a new loop, take the old loop off, put the new loop on, and tighten your yarn. To continue with the nice clean edges, we're going to knit stitch the last peg. Next, we're going to knit 50 rows and then purl 1 row. On the sides of the fabric, you'll see a little separation here and in between the rows. Don't worry about it, just stretch your stitches and that will go away. And of course, don't worry about the curling. Down at the bottom edge, you can choose to tighten those stitches. Alright, let's keep knitting. Okay, we're on the third side of the connector and we're just going to knit 38 rows. Your connector should look like this. And it's time to bind off. Now you guys have the idea on how to do this bind off, so I'm not going to talk you through it. I'm just going to let you see me do that. Now we're going to start knitting one of the straps, and you need to cast on 6 pegs and knit 50 rows. Your first strap is finished, and now we need to sew the middle right here. You're going to need to leave an inch on both ends, so measure that out somewhat. It doesn't have to be exact, and then start your sewing, and you're going to use 2 strands of yarn as one, even in your sewing. Alright, so to sew, look for the inside part of the loop and feed your yarn through there, and then go to the opposite side. Do the same thing, feed your needle through that inside loop, and then you're going to go to the one over it, right above that one, and then go across. Again, feeding the yarn through the loop, that's the portion of the loop that's on the inside. Now the technique that I'm using to sew the straps is the same technique you're going to use throughout the rest of the project. Okay, remember to stop sewing midway, and then you're going to weave in the end. First, secure the working yarn by making a knot like this, and then take your needle and you're going to feed it through the inside, and this is how we're going to hide the leftover working yarn. And then just take your scissors and cut that excess yarn. Now we sew the bag together. The first 2 pieces we're going to sew is the front part to the connector, and as you can see, the purl lines help you figure out where to place that part. And so get your needle and your yarn, and hopefully it has a loop at the end where you folded the piece of thread. It's really yarn that you're going to use as thread, and you're going to secure the yarn by making a knot like this, and then you're going to go from that side to the other, and again we're using the inside part of each loop to feed the yarn, and then go from one side to the loops on the inside. See, one right up above that one, and then over to the other side. Again, just like we did when we were sewing the strap. Same technique. Remember that you're sewing on the outside. Alright, so you reach your edge, and I use these little stitch holders, and I'm going to do the same on this side. And that's going to be one side, and then you're going to take that other strap, that other piece, and you're going to sew it to the connector the same way we did this front part over here. Same thing, and stay on the outside so you can have these nice edges. They're nice and they keep your purse, they keep the shape on the purse nicely. On some sides you'll have leftover working yarn that you can use to sew the bag as well. Just tie the 2 leftover working yarns, and then to one of them you're going to add a yarn needle and use that to sew the sides together. When you're done with one side, you move on to the next side. And finally, the last two pieces you need to sew on are the straps. Now I chose to add buttons to this particular bag. The other ones I wrapped the straps. However you choose to decorate your bag is fine. Just remember to weave in your ends and you are done. Alright guys, remember to like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, yay! Bye.